Man, the myth, the legend, Brian Baldinger. He knows. He was in Baltimore last week watching the Ravens beat down the Seattle Seahawks. We'll get to that in just a second because Baltimore looks scary. That defense is real, like Baldy pointed to last week. He said they got a lot of hunters, a lot of sharks on that defensive line, and boy, do they do. Baldy, brought to you by our proud partner, Golden State, serving the Bay Area for 3 generations. Building better starts with Golden State. When you succeed, we succeed. Visit GoldenStateLumber.com. We're playing Know the Show as well. Know the Show. Something's going to happen on the show in the next 15 minutes. At 7:50, be the first caller to call in and answer the question about what happened on the show first, and you will be on your way to chasing to play Knockout. Baldy, good morning to you. Welcome back to the Morning Roast here on 95.7 The Game. Before we get to Baltimore and the Seattle game and look ahead to Jacksonville, got to get your thoughts on Chase Young. Chase Young, we know he was the number 1 overall pick with the Washington Commanders a couple years ago, but who are the 49ers getting in this defensive end, Chase Young?
Well, I think they're getting an upgrade over Cleveland Farrell, who's been starting out there, and Drake Jackson. I think they're getting an upgrade. That helps. It's interesting. You know, Chase Young was the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2020. And I think the best game he played that year, the best game he ever played, was in San Francisco against the 49ers in Washington. That game, it still stands out in my mind. His movement, forced fumbles, passes defense, tackles behind the line of scrimmage. You go back and watch that game. I mean, maybe John Lynch just has that in his head. He's played okay this year, but they just weren't, their defensive front with Montez Sweat and Allen and Payne, like they just weren't changing the game the way you got to change the game. And so I think the 49ers are looking to upgrade. They got to play better up front than they have over the last 3 losses. And so I think Chase can add to that right now.
What does he have to do to be an every down player, or is he an every down player that you think on this defense? Because you make a move like this, they already had Randy Gregory. They haven't gotten what they wanted out of Drake Jackson. Like, my mind starts going like, well, where does this guy fit in? Is he an every down player? Does he play opposite Bosa nonstop? Like, how do they squeeze the lemon on the draft pick that they've given up on this? Is he a guy that you want to re-sign? Like, I have so many questions on this. So, Baldy, where does he fit?
Yeah, well, I think he starts right away. I mean, I think he starts against Jacksonville. Whoever lines up against Anton Harrison, the rookie right tackle, I mean, they better eat. A lot of people have. This is a guy they should win that battle. Jacksonville's got a very good offense, and the quarterback is playing awesome. But, that's a rookie out there. And I saw Chris Jones eat him alive. I've seen, teams attack him. And so I would expect Chase to start. I mean, I think it's an upgrade. His movement is elite. I think he needs to learn a lot. I think Coach Kaczmarek can really help him. I think he needs to learn a lot about pass rush. I think he has relied on his athletic ability for too long, which is considerable. Because if the quarterback gets flushed, Chase can literally chase.
Right.
He can chase with some of the best of them in this business. And that's when he kind of comes alive. But if you're saying line up, put your hand in the ground, and come off the ball, and go beat your tackle one-on-one. Like, he has not been able to do that consistently. In fact, Warren Sapp worked with him in training camp this year. And he's like, he was a stand-up 2-point pass rusher. And Sapp's like, put your hand in the ground like a jet and take off. And, when he does that, like, he's better, but he says he doesn't see as well when his hand is down and doesn't see what's going on behind the line of scrimmage. Now, I mean, I understand there's restrictions and limitations, but I think Sarah could really work with them to get the most out of them.
Baldy, Jadeveon Clowney's having a bounce-back year with the Baltimore Ravens, and I've kind of compared the two of them, all the hype, the physical talents, the injuries, the underwhelming performance at the big league level. Do you see, like, this being one of those spots? Because Jadeveon's had a monster year this year. Could this be the reclamation? You referenced Kaczmarek. It feels like if he's going to be good, this is the spot where he's going to be good.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. And, if you want to compare him to Clowney, that's fine. In Baltimore, they hired Chuck Smith, who ran a pass rush academy for years in Atlanta and developed some of the best pass rushers in this league, and the Ravens hired him this year. So what's interesting about Chuck and Clowney is he's the outside linebacker coach, but he's gotten full reign to coach everybody on pass rush. So it could be safeties blitzing or corners blitzing and just fundamentals to get into the quarterback. So he coaches everybody that rushes the quarterback. But I kind of think you need to do that. Because I see too many, corner cap blitzes where the guys just let the quarterback, out of his inside shoulder, and they get outside him and just mistakes. But no, Clowney he's played very, very well. So is Kyle Van Noy. I mean, the teams that are winning right now, you look at Kansas City, you look at Baltimore, you look at Cleveland. I mean, defenses is dominating in this league right now. And so, San Francisco, while they still have a good ranking, nobody would say that they've been dominant the last 2 weeks against Minnesota and Cincinnati. They've been anything but that. And so we said before they went on the bye week, they got to get better up front. Mm-hmm. Like that's where it starts with this defense. And we'll see if Chase Young is that missing component right now.
Well, Jacksonville, and we're talking to Brian Baldinger here on the Morning Rush on 85.7 The Game. Jacksonville got off to a slow start. They lost back-to-back games at Kansas City. Then they laid that stinker against the Houston Texans at home, which was C.J. Stroud's coming-out party. Then they go over to London, Baldy, and they win back-to-back games, and they beat up on the Falcons, and they really had an impressive win against the Buffalo Bills. What has flipped their season on the off? Is it the defense? Is it the offense? What has flipped their season to which they've won 5 games in a row and one of the hottest teams in the league?
I think they're better in the red zone right now. I think the offense is clicking. They have the rookie right tackle. They couldn't score in the red zone against Kansas City at all, but not many teams can. So that's where defense comes into play. They had them at home and had plenty of opportunities. They couldn't score. So I think they figured some of that out. But I think the front is playing a lot better. I mean, Josh Allen's having a great year, his best year ever. Trayvon Walker is playing much better up front. I think you look at the 2 linebackers, Foye Oluokun is leading the league in tackles again after leading the league 2 years in a row. I mean, you're looking at him right now, and like if you don't block him, he'll make every single tackle. He's their Fred Warner. And so, and then on the back end, you look at a guy like D. Williams, number 31. Like, to me, he leads the league in passes defense. To me, he's as good as any corner in this league. And so I just think all the way around defensively, they're just playing a lot better. And individuals are playing a lot better.
Where can the Niners attack this defense, Baldy? Because their offense is sputtering. Now they're going to get Deebo back. Hopefully Trent Williams plays. Not sure about him, but 17, 17, 17. Those are the points scored the last 3 weeks for the Niners. How can they attack this front end if Jacksonville's playing so well? What's the weakness?
Well, honestly, Bonte, I don't even think it's about Jacksonville. It's about San Francisco and their execution. I mean, look, they know what they're going to get. You have to block Foye inside. If you're going to have success running the football. So you either got to trap him, you got to get him to, misdirection, because he's very, very fast. So sometimes if you go fast the wrong way with misdirection, you kind of can get away without even blocking him sometimes. But, you put 2 elite players back on the field, they should be a better offense in Trent Williams and what they have, with the receiver. And Deebo. So, I mean, it's really about their execution right now and stop from turning the ball over. Those things have hurt them in a lot of the games.
You referenced it. Bonte keeps hammering this home. They really miss Deebo. Look at what this offense looks like without Deebo. What does this offense look like when they don't have Deebo? I know Trent didn't play. We'll get to him in a second, but what do you see when Deebo's not out there?
Well, it's an offense. This is going to sound like a cliche, but it's so much based on spacing. And so when you space the defense out, it's good to have a really viable third option. And I'm not saying Bonte's the third, that Deebo's the third option. Mm-hmm. He could be the first option in a lot of plays. But it's good to be able to go Ayuk, Kittle, Deebo. It's good to have a third option. And then if you say, okay, where's McCaffrey fit in? Well, he fits in. So when you space the defense out, like you've got to have, it's good to have 4 elite options to throw the ball to. And he just gives you, in that spacing, he just gives you an elite option that once the ball's in his hands and you get it to him on the move or what, he's going to break tackles. He's going to gain yards after the catch. I think 2 years ago he led the league in yards after the catch. So you just have an elite option to go to when you space the field.
Trevor Lawrence, his leap, his evolution. I didn't think he could run until I seen him at the Fiesta Bowl against Ohio State. I was like, wait, Trevor could run? He's got legs? What does Trevor do so well that has that offense clicking? Is it more so the running game with Travis Etienne? Is it all the weapons? What makes Trevor Lawrence so good, Baldy?
Well, he's been playing the position a long time, Bonte. He won the job at Cartersville High School when he was in 8th grade.
I know, it's crazy.
He's in the spring of his 8th grade. He's 13 years old. Think about what you were doing. You're riding your bike when you're 13. In 8th grade, the spring of his 8th grade junior high school year, he went and tried out for the varsity spring practice and won the job in 8th grade.
Wow.
And then started 54 straight games and won 52 of them at Cartersville, in 2 state championships. So, then he goes to Clemson, wins an out championship.
Right.
Like, if you ask me what he does best, it's decision-making. He's an elite decision maker. All right? So, like, to me, the most fascinating position in all of sports in every level is the quarterback. And nobody knows what constitutes a great quarterback. We still can't figure out if Brock Purdy is or isn't. Nobody can. But I think when you watch the evolution of Trevor Lawrence, you're saying, like, you look at him just physically, he's got a V shaped. Like, he's athletically a freak. Can he run? Yeah, he can run. But he chooses to beat you from the pocket, buy time, extend plays. But he can take off. It's not a big part of their offense, but he certainly has the green light to go. But he's got elite decision-making. And then when he wants to pull the trigger, the ball goes where he wants it to go.
Right.
I mean, we need great quarterbacks in this league, and that's what he is.
Yeah, he showed toughness playing on like 3 days rest with the knee injury. He throws dimes. I mean, he's got really good touch, throws guys open. I really like Trevor Lawrence. You referenced Brock Purdy there. Heading into the year, obviously, there was a lot of hype on Brock Purdy. Some people didn't think it's sustainable. We've now gotten 8 games, 5 really good ones and 3 not so good ones when you look at like the turnovers late in the game. How would you rate midway through Brock Purdy's season?
I think it's been good. It's been good to very good. It hasn't been great because of the last 3 games, but you can't put it all on him, though. Like, it'd be good if Juwan Jennings runs a route that he's throwing to, and I don't know what Juwan was doing at the top of the route in the last game against Cincinnati, but he got intercepted. I mean, you're throwing these balls on timing. Like, the receivers have to win. They have to be where they're supposed to be. If you just wait for receivers to get open in this league, you're never going to beat an elite offense. Sometimes you have to live with the mistakes. But he's made elite throws and and he runs the offense. The team has to play better around him. But, yes, he can play better. He can eliminate some of those mistakes. But I don't want him, Joe, to eliminate the mistakes at the risk of not being aggressive.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you're not winning a championship. Mahomes doesn't have 2 in the bank if he's not aggressive and lives with the mistakes. You have to live with them.
Well, Baldy,
like, it can't be just let's play not to make mistakes. Nobody plays good like that.
Don't you feel like when you watch the offense the last couple weeks, no Deebo, no Trent, their best weapon was his feet. I thought he made plays when a less mobile quarterback would have been sacked over and over and over again. And yes, he made some bad decisions late in those games, but he kept them in that game for the 3 quarters, playing into it. So I don't know. I thought his feet were really good the last couple of weeks.
I agree with you. I mean, he got out of harm's way a number of times. The touchdown to McCaffrey was rolling to his right across his body, and I don't know how, in the play before that. On that drive, I mean, the throw across the middle of the field, I don't know how he saw whoever was Kittle, whoever it was. But, I mean, he's got amazing vision, and he's got escapability. I mean, he's got what it takes. Now, look, these guys only get measured by winning Super Bowls and how you play in January, ultimately. But still, I mean, for a guy that has just, crossed the threshold of starting a full season, I think they've got something special there at that position.
Yeah, looking back over at the Jacksonville Jaguars, Baldy, we're talking to Brian Baldinger here on the Roast on 95.7 The Game every single Tuesday at 7:30 in the morning. Travis Etienne, is he the key to that? As great as Trevor Lawrence is, and you just waxed away, and I agree with you, Trevor Lawrence is the real deal. But Travis Etienne is special, and I don't think a lot of people know about this young man. He's a 3-down back. He runs tough. He runs through tackles. It feels like he's the key to their offense.
Well, he's a key. I mean, he's a home run hitter. And, he's a guy that can carry the ball a bunch. I mean, he's their McCaffrey in that offense. So he's every bit as valuable as Christian is to the 49ers offense. But, their offense just, when you watch it, it just makes sense. Right. Because here's what happens in this league. Quarterbacks are getting hit at an all-time high right now. All these empty sets and overload blitzes. And some offenses, you don't have an answer, whether it's a hot read or sight adjust. Some teams just don't have built-in answers when they get blitzed. To me, Jacksonville has an answer. It's a well-thought-out offense. Evan Ingram has he's got a real place in this offense. They run a lot of plays for him. The Giants never figured out how to use them, but they do. Christian Kirk is their slot receiver. Yep. Ridley is their number one. I mean, Zay Jones is their Deebo. He's their third guy that when you space the field, like, who do you take away? Like, the offense just makes a lot of sense, and it's humming right now.
I'm looking at the Niners and the Jags. They're both coming off of a bye week right now. A lot of expectations for the Niners. You get a little time off probably over the weekend. You see Brock Purdy, he's plowing corn in Iowa. If you're one of the guys on that team, what are you doing today? Like, you're getting back into the facility and you're getting yourself rocking and rolling and you're trying to get ready for that big push down the stretch. Take me through the player's perspective of coming into that building and you're the 49ers right now. What do you think they're talking about?
I think they're excited about, I think honestly, it's probably a good thing that they're going across the country to Jacksonville and playing one of the hottest teams in the league. Nothing can kind of bring you back to your winning ways than beating a good team on the road. Because when you beat a good team on the road, you get 6 hours with each other on the plane ride back. Like, you're watching videos together and you're playing cards, and it's just, it's just a camaraderie that's just built, especially if you're like, you go and you beat one of the elite teams and an AFC team that's won playoff games and they got everything going for them, and you go into Jacksonville and beat them, like, you're like, we're back where we belong.
Right.
And in one game, you could restore what we saw the first 5 weeks of the season. I just think this is a perfectly timed matchup, considering the Niners hadn't won a game in a month. And, Jacksonville's done nothing but win in the last month. It's the ultimate test right now for them.
No, it is a test, and we're going to see a couple tests later down the line here. Obviously, Philadelphia outlasting the Cowboys, but a game you attended and called, Baltimore and Seattle. And we're going to see Baltimore on Christmas night here at Levi Stadium, and then we're going to see Seattle twice in a 3-week span here. Your takeaways from the Seattle side of things, because a lot of Niner fans are watching as they went back into first place in the NFC West. Seattle just scored 3 points, but my takeaway, Baldy, Baltimore's damn scary, man. They may be the best team in the league, and nobody's talking about them.
Well, they should be talking about them. But, look, when you watch Baltimore play, honestly, like, I don't want to overstate this, but you almost feel like the NFC is a bunch of frauds when they go up against. Like, San Francisco just saw Cleveland and Cincinnati. They got whipped. All right? Seattle had won 3 in a row, first place in the NFC West. They go to Baltimore, they got whipped. Detroit was 5-1. They were riding high. They went to Baltimore, and they got whipped. The Baltimore Ravens have played 9 games, and in 4 of the 9 games, teams haven't scored a touchdown.
Wow.
Like, they're the best defensive football. They lead the league in sacks. Like, they don't have weaknesses right now. And if you could say the same thing about Cincinnati, you could say the same thing about Cleveland, although the offense has a lot to be desired. But you look at what Miami is doing. Kansas City could be the best defensive football. We just saw what they did to Miami. Like, the best defenses right now are shutting down good offenses or great offenses. And they're in the AFC right now.
Yeah.
So, like, the second half of the season, I could be, like, spitting those words right out of my mouth and eating crow. But that's kind of how it looks to me. And I saw Baltimore firsthand. And Seattle got physically whipped in the trenches on both sides of the ball.
So is that the big takeaway with Seattle as we preview them, and we're going to see them 2 monster matchups, one on Thanksgiving and a couple weeks later at Levi Stadium? Is that just who they are? Are they going to be a team that's going to succumb to pressure like they did against Baltimore, like they did against Cincinnati? What is going on up in Seattle? Because I did not see that coming.
I was talking to Pete Carroll before the game, and, like, he's got 15 rookies on the active roster. I've never seen that before. Huh. I was just asking, like, he believes in a lot of these kids, and a lot of them play a lot. And, they've got starters at rookies. And, one thing about Pete, going back to his days at USC, he wasn't afraid to play freshmen back then. He's not afraid. And he's going to live with mistakes and bad games like Sunday. But he feels like he's got the right kids, and they should get better. They should improve upon that. I don't think they'll lay an egg like that the rest of the season. But I think, in the NFC, they're viable contenders because they do have playmakers. They got to protect the quarterback a lot better than they did the other day. Because if they don't, Geno looks like a lot of these quarterbacks when he's like literally laying on his back trying to complete these passes.
All right, Baldy. Last week you're at M&T Bank Stadium out there in Baltimore. Ravens whip on the Seattle Seahawks. Where are you at this weekend?
I'm in Baltimore.
Again,
in Cleveland.
Oh,
like it could be the 2 best defenses going at it.
That's
back
a fist
and
fight.
forth.
That's a fist fight.
Well, look, the AFC North is just it's just a bitch right now. It's just like every one of those games is just one battle after another, man. Like there's just blood all over the place at the end of these games between these teams.
Baldy, you should start calling Maryland Baltimore.
All right. I'm gonna sell that when I get back to the Crab Town this weekend.
You sounded great on the radio broadcast, by the way. You were obsessed with Mike Mitchell. He was running hard, and then
Pete Mitchell, yeah,
Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll had called the timeout, and you were talking about him yelling at Bobby Wagner. You were doing a great job because I was driving around doing some errands during the game, the Seattle Ravens game. So you did a great job.
Thank you, Joe. Keaton Mitchell, though, keep an eye on him, kid.
Yeah.
Like, I saw him run away from Seattle. He had 2 runs for over 100 yards. One of them a touchdown. Like, nobody could catch him. But that's who he was at East Carolina. And he got a chance to play, and, boy, he made the best of it.
I didn't even know who that safety was. Had 6 picks. I mean.
Geno Stone.
Geno Stone, 6 picks. Kyle Hamilton is blitzing. If they get home field advantage, this may be the year for Lamar to get to that Super Bowl. This may be it. I mean, home field advantage is going to be very key in that AFC.
The frustrating thing with me and Lamar is he just makes it look so damn easy. Like, it just does. Like, he's got a smile on his face. Even when they're, like, tattooing him. He's just having so much fun out there. And I think it's a big part of their success.
Yeah, he's just got to take care of the football there. Got to keep the ball from getting on the turf. But other than that, he's playing like an MVP. Baldy, we always appreciate the time. And by this time next week, we're breaking down the game between the Jaguars and Niners, a monster matchup down there in Duval County. They're going to be fired up down there in Jacksonville. Baldy, keep up the great work, man. Have a good call with Baltimore and Cleveland.
All right, guys. You bet, man. I'll talk to you next week.
Anytime. Brian Baldinger, man, the best in the business. Check him out at Baldy NFL on Twitter. Breaks it down better than anybody out there, man.